Hello, dear friends. This prediction is not mine, but that of Jess Anthony. I can't be sure if he is right, but her analysis of the situation is very interesting. Opinion piece. The leaves will fall in autumn. It feels very close. The die is cast. There will be a changing of the guard. Inflation won't be so bad. Many systems will fail at once. ESU prediction by Jess Anthony. There will be more than one domino chain. The slate is about to be whipped clean. Hard lessons don't have much effect. War would provoke divine intervention. Mar-a-Lago rate the news of the week. They can't see the future anymore, so they make mistakes. New kind of bank to give power back to the people. Let's start. Autumn has always been my favorite season. The time when everything bursts with its past beauty, as if nature has been saving all the year for the grand finale. The trees let go of the old to make way for the new. Even if the leaves fall, the tree still stands, and even if things are not going well, you must keep fighting. Only the cedar trees lose their petals, not evergreens full of vitality. Says ESU via Jess Anthony, in quotes. We are going to intervene before this autumn and winter. We have found that lessons don't have much effect. It's probably best to move on. Close quotes. He predicts that inflation will not be that bad, but that the economy will collapse as soon as the BRICS countries set up their system. Until then, things will collapse, as in the domino effect, except that there will be more than one domino chain. Many systems will fail at once. Food would be problematic. Delivery service would be reduced. Supplies would disappear. Energy needs would be uncertain. The weather wouldn't cooperate. July and August would pass, but by then things would be on the brink of failure. The government would collapse. This would be as a result of a combination of incidents. It would be a sudden maneuver. The media would not prepare the population for this. Nothing would be backed up by accurate research on reporting. Response. What about autumn and winter? We want the colossus to return to its place before stasis begins, which means stagnation. This will diffuse some of the worst results of the upheaval. It will be easier if he is here when the dollar is devalued. More intense fighting would probably continue, but it would be confined to a relatively protected area. The colossus would enter just as the economy is shifting to the BRICS system. Things will look grim, but at that time the reversal, the stasis, would begin and the earth would be stopped to allow Christ Michael to return. The returned workers will be transformed and empowered. Everything is going to come down quickly. The crescendo is being reached and actions are going to be taken that will ensure that we do not return to what existed before. The slate is about to wipe clean, in other words. Much of what is about to happen will be simultaneous in the application of the relative actions. The momentum is about to unfold in a way that will leave many breathless as to the scope and scale of activities to usher in the changing of the guard, so to speak. War. There will be heavy bombing activity in the theater of operations within Europe's borders. This will trigger appropriate responses from the major players on the world stage. In a sense, it is written, except that those who think it will be to their advantage in the face of continued world domination will be annihilated. so must be the downfall of the old decrepit systems of the world. A major attack would be launched on Russian soil, but it would be disguised as coming from Ukraine. This is why the G7 met. They know something is going on, and they have not been told the full plans, as they are under strict secrecy by those who are formulating the action. The G7 group is only aware, to a certain extent, that something will happen that would require certain support mechanisms to be put in place, so that they can cope with the ramifications of the attack. However, as with everything else, the Russians are already aware of what is coming, and have already set their plans in motion, some of which have been made public. Their response will consist on weaponry that has not yet been revealed. Such an incident would occur in the run-up to this event, but would impact the world population at large with monetary problems. Financial system. One of the main reasons for upping the war ante for those in power is the imposition of the new financial system under the auspices of the BRICS nations. Everything that was part of the continuing degradation of the political relations of the so-called nuclear powers over the last 10 years revolved around the provisioning of this new financial system. Therefore, the current position of the major global influences within the international political sphere would remain inflexible, while the die is now cast. The old world system would be on the verge of being dissolved, and those in power are well aware of this, hence the raising of the initial stakes of the war. The transitional period wouldn't be able to cater for the method of financial transactions that the present monetary system supports. It is therefore recommended that they find access to some measure, access to some measure of relief in the form of food, water, medicine, and gas to bail them out as needed. Money would hardly be a commodity of use during this period. The magnitude of the incidents mentioned above and the significant retaliation that would arise as a result will be the opportunity for help to emerge from cosmic sources. News of the week. The most talked about news of the week is that Donald Trump said on Monday that his Mar-a-Lago property in Palm Beach, Florida, was raided by the FBI agents. A federal magistrate judge in Florida signed the search warrant authorizing the FBI raid on the resort. Another judge ordered the Justice Department to unseal the FBI warrant against Trump. The FBI refused to serve the search warrant for the Mar-a-Lago raid and kicked a lawyer off the property. The FBI launched a surprise raid on the Mar-a-Lago home, claiming he had failed to turn over classified documents belonging to the National Archives. More than 50 armed agents ransacked the property, detained guests, and even broke into Trump's personal safe. Sources at Mar-a-Lago believe the agents were there looking for something completely different, sealed indictments against saboteurs. But those documents were not there, but in the hands of the White Hats. By the end of the raid, the FBI had taken 15 boxes of papers, which the agency took indiscriminately without even examining the papers. The raid took place while Trump was in New York, and he learned of the raid from one of the 6 Navy SEALs assigned to protect his command center in Florida, but declined to repel the intruders to avoid a bloodbath. On Monday night, Trump issued a statement on Truth Social saying that, quote, "These are dark times for the nation," and that the raid was another tactic aimed at deterring him from running in 2024. Juan Osavin says the raid was a step before arresting Trump. The Storm Rider says the same thing. How do we know what was in the box before he left the residence? If the lawyers weren't allowed to see everything, Rand Paul suspects they are trying to trap him with planted material. But the safe they broke into contained a hamburger. The White Hats set a trap and took the bait. Economy. The West is in an economic slowdown tantamount to recession or depression. Citigroup warns of a massive stock market sell-off according to Gregory Manarino. Falling gas prices bring relief in real spending, but low-income consumers remain stressed. It is time to act. It is time to finish the movie. It's time to stop eating popcorn. X22 report. The door has opened. The enormity of what is coming will shock the world. Now everyone loses. Inflation will overwhelm the system and the energy crisis will leave the village. When central banking took us off the gold standard, there were blackouts and energy crises all over the world. Now we are moving away from their system and we are seeing the same thing. Unlike the Great Reset at Davos, which was designed to further in-depth the village through unbacked digital money, the global financial restart is based on currencies backed by gold, precious metals, and real tangible assets, not economic fictions. New kind of banking to give power back to the people by mid-May fair. When you deposit money in any bank, that money belongs to the bank and no longer belongs to you, and the bank can use that money for any purpose. If all customers withdrew their deposited money from banks, most banks would collapse in a few weeks, if not days. At present, there is only one type of official bank in the whole banking industry system, the so-called commercial bank. There are many problems with commercial banks, such as privacy, personal information, security, too many functions that people don't like, and so on. Therefore, the need for a new type of bank in the whole system of the current banking industry is very important. The new type of bank should have different characteristics from all current commercial banks on the market, so it should only focus on the personal bank account. The name of the new type of bank could be Individual Bank for Free Beings. Americas. The Argentinian government seeks to agree on prices and wages for 60 days. Argentine industry manages to stay afloat in a difficult first half of the year. Attempt to impeach Paraguay's Attorney General fails. Mexico's headline inflation rises to 8.15% in July, its highest level since 2001. Petro invites indigenous Colombians not only to resist but also to govern. The US has understandable differences with Petro that will continue to be discussed. Guatemala accuses another journalist, an editor, and a political scientist of money laundering. Costa Rica and Ecuador begin negotiations for a free trade agreement. Ecuador's National Agricultural Registry begins in the Galapagos Islands. Developed countries' energy transition deforests Ecuador's Amazon. Ecuador's indigenous people launch countdown to protect 80% of the Amazon by 2025. A judge in Ecuador once again grants freedom to Glass, Correa's former vice-president. Castillo denounces a conspiracy behind the raid on Peru's presidential palace. The Salvadoran Congress dissolves the census agency and passes its functions to the central bank. China donates 26 medical products to Nicaragua to strengthen the health system. The Panamanian government authorizes a 30% reduction in the price of 170 medicines. More than 71,000 migrants, 63% of them Venezuelan, have crossed Panama this year. Nearly 5,000 Venezuelans killed in Latin America after migration wave. Brazil records revenues from coffee exports up to July. Inflation in Brazil slows down in July, with an increase of 10%. The US government authorizes the possible sale of Javelin missiles to Brazil. The Matanzas fire is under control in Cuba. The OAS points to 20 years of international failure in Haiti and calls for aid. USA. US inflation gives the economy a breather, falling to 8.5%. Arkansas judge found that in Lake. Elon Musk's countersuit makes new accusations against Twitter. IRS withdraws a job posting detailing how new accounting agents can use letter force after a backlash. IRS to open a sniper school where Treasury agents will be trained to use the M24 sniper weapon system, a military and police version of the popular Remington Model 700 series rifles. The Democratic Inflation Reduction Act includes the hiring of 87,000 new IRS agents. Advanced technology used in largest operation in history. Technically, they cheated because both teams used looking glass and have remote scopes. The theft was allowed so they could shoot this movie and demolish the Matrix. We will marvel once this war is over and this movie to tell the story. However, GeneDecode reported that since the light frequencies have increased on Earth and the demons can no longer see the future, and that is why they make so many mistakes. Europe. Drought and heat waves will continue throughout August, warns report. Germany and the US moderate inflation as Denmark and Norway set records. The European Union aims to reduce natural gas consumption by 15%. The Netherlands will close 11,200 farms to meet climate targets. Another 70,600 must be downsized or sold to the government. UK plans for possible organized winter blackouts. Opposition eavesdropping scandal triggers a wave of reactions in Greece. Spain's tourism sector needs to fill almost 1 million jobs by 2030. Repsol and Ferrovial allow the IBEX 35 to rise against the tide of Europe. Ukraine. At least 13 injured and 1 dead after explosion at a Russian air base in Crimea. Ukraine claims responsibility for the attack on a Russian military base in Crimea, and Russia says it is an accident. A huge explosion rocks a Crimean Air Force base 120 miles from the front line. It was not the result of an airstrike or shelling. Drifting mine alert in the Black Sea. Asia. China ends military exercises in Taiwan. Taiwan begins live-fire defense drill following Chinese maneuvers. Demonstrations in Sri Lanka protest against government crackdown. Japanese government resigns. The new composition of the Japanese government under the leadership of Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is expected to be announced soon. A German newspaper reports a sudden massive increase in heart attacks in Japan. Saudi ambassador drops dead in the middle of a speech in Cairo. Israel kills a senior Palestinian militiaman in Nablus, and the United Nations warns of a fragile trust in Gaza. Turkey will explore for gas in the Mediterranean without entering disputed waters. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.